Hi there. My name's Peter. I'm the Director of Developer Advocacy here at MariaDB Corp, and I wanted to talk to you today about enabling machine learning in MariaDB using MindsDB. Well, what's MindsDB, you may ask? MindsDB is kind of a middleware in a way. It's a rapid application development methodology that allows developers to use kind of enhanced SQL to coordinate interactions between various LLMs like OpenAI and BARD and machine learning frameworks, engines, and then sort of declaratively using SQL, modeling system integration in terms of thinking about them like database tables or views on databases, connect inputs and outputs from those models to various data sources that MindsDB supports. Among those data sources are things like, standard relational databases, NoSQL databases, as well as lots and a growing catalog of SaaS APIs and apps. So the role of a relational database here is an interesting one, like MariaDB and SkySQL, which we'll talk about in a minute, because it's an operational database. And in plain English, what does that mean? It's the operational data, it's the database underneath your app, your API, your mobile app. It's absolutely necessary, right? This is what your app is persisting its data into. If that connection isn't there between the app and the database, your app isn't working, right? It's that database. So, it's in a system like this with MindsDB together, it kind of forms the role has two roles. It's simultaneously a source of training data, as well as a repository for output, for insights. These large language models can certainly generate content, right? A lot of times you're analyzing data at sort of big data scale. That can mean outputting insights or observations or content or, generated content at that same scale. A system like MindsDB certainly can act and store data, but it's not really designed to be a full-blown, general purpose relational database or NoSQL database or something like that. In the same way, a cloud function like an AWS Lambda can store information temporarily. It's not really its role, right? It's not designed to do that long term. Generally, it could store a little bit of data for the lifetime of the function, but that's indeterminate, right? So same kind of thing with MindsDB. Not really meant to be a general purpose database, even though it says DB. It's really more of a middleware in some ways. And a rapid application platform that sort of brings the machine learning and AI, right to the operational data plane, and helps you just bypass a ton of the traditional sort of model-driven development, process where the model comes first. You're ETLing or CDCing data out of an operational database, preparing it, cleaning it, transforming it, building a model out of it, training the model, and then figuring out how to serve those insights back into an operational context. And so that's kind of why that's sort of the role of a relational database like MariaDB or MySQL in a system like this. And why MariaDB specifically is that, like I just said, it's sort of MindsDB kind of brings the machine learning to that operational data, and that just simplifies the system dramatically, as well as also sort of decreasing latency. There's just less moving parts. You're skipping all those things I've mentioned just a few minutes ago. And it's certainly just much more productive, as you're going to see. Sort of a SQL-like a dialect, very simple. SQL can be in thinking about things in terms of data, database tables and views. You can be very productive extremely quickly with a platform like this. And then, of course, since, as I was saying a minute ago, inference data can proliferate, right, and be very complex, you're going to need someplace to store that data and or serve it. And that's going to allow something that, has the ability to do that will give you, a very rapid deployment of your models that you build with MindsDB, and allow you to serve AI kind of enabled apps on top of this, robust, scalable, production sort of bedrock relational database technology, and then obviously allow you to kind of scale your model's performance from the data perspective, as well as make sure that it's secure. And so, if you're not familiar with MariaDB, we build kind of a database for all, any workload, any cloud, any scale. Well known for being a fork of MySQL, but that was a long time ago. And MariaDB's community has innovated significantly since then. One of the innovations that MariaDB Corporation has brought is SkySQL, which is a managed database service, cloud service, and that offers a number of different workloads and a couple different MariaDB-based services inside of the cloud service. So one of them is Enterprise Server that allows you to do parallel read scaling, and then you can do sort of primary and secondary replicas to sort of distribute and accomplish a little bit more of a distributed relational database. MaxScale is a service that's part of SkySQL. That's database proxy, and that really helps various parts of the SkySQL system to be highly available, split reads and writes, and do things that basically make your applications much more intelligent, load balanced, highly available, that sort of thing. And then Expand is the true distributed SQL offering inside of SkySQL that allows you to do parallel read and parallel write, and also read scale. So that's kind of your no compromises, higher end scale while still doing ACID transactions. And then the Enterprise Server also offers a columnar analytics option, so if you want to do operational analytics. And then the most recent addition in Tech Preview is something called Serverless Analytics, and that allows you to bring a Zeppelin notebook kind of experience and some functions of Apache Spark, like the core data frame and a few other things, to SkySQL, where data in any of these other services like Enterprise Server, Columnar Analytics, Expand are just kind of automatically available to you in Spark via this Zeppelin notebook. And you can do other things like export data, import and export data to and from cloud object storage and things like that. S3 and the like. So that's just kind of the SkySQL service at a glance. And obviously, as a developer, you're using a variety of APIs, connectors, drivers, that sort of thing to talk to this cloud service. And so what does this all kind of mean, and what does it all offer? It sort of grows with you. The fact that there's a couple different offerings. You can start from a sort of developer as kind of like a single node instance, spread that, scale that up a little bit to be multi-node instance, or potentially look at a little bit of query redesign and a move to native distributed or pure distributed SQL, where you can handle a bit more scale. So you have services that kind of grow with you, and then as a developer, this is the standard sort of cloud database value, right? You have the experts from MariaDB are sort of managing your cloud service and providing that service level agreement, so you don't have to, right? And doing a lot of that DBA work, and then of course with trying to minimize impact to your application, so that you're not rewriting app code to achieve things like scalability, failover, or replica leverage like you would if you were sharding. And so that drives a bunch of different workloads for MindsDB, SkySQL, MariaDB kind of applications, everything from transactional to JSON document workloads, mixed analytic workloads, and all this is on top of Amazon and Google Cloud with Azure coming soon. So what are we going to build today? So we're going to build some parts here in this kind of light blue on MindsDB, and this system is basically going to be for a tweetbot called Snoopstein. So this diagram might look a little overwhelming at first, but don't worry, we'll kind of walk through it step by step and build this out using the MindsDB tool and SkySQL along the way. SkySQL is going to be the part represented here in this teal color, and then database tables in MindsDB will be on these light blue. So we'll talk about this, and let's we can start building it out. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get started here. I've got the MindsDB console open, and I'm just going to expand a few things here. You can see some of the artifacts. So what we'll do is we'll kind of almost notebook style kind of walk through this the code here in the query editor and show you a little bit about what it would take to build a tweetbot that uses OpenAI's ChatGPT version 4 actually. So what we might do, again, just using standard SQL, drop model and then give it a name, GPT model. You run that, so I drop it from previous demo runs. I'm going to go ahead and say I want to create a model. And all I need to do is give it a name and then give it a response variable. So this is kind of the column name in a way that I'd like to return. I tell it what ML engine I want it to use. And if this was a production system, you'd probably want to supply your OpenAI, API key. MindsDB provides one as a convenience for you for sort of demos and, not really meant for production apps, but great for scenarios like this. And then, specify which model you want to use. And then here's where the magic happens. You just say what your prompt template is going to be. So it's saying, hey, I want to respond to this, this prompt by an author, right? And so let's go ahead. We'll just highlight that and click run. And great, there we go. You can see here it's already off and running and generating the model here. Great. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just use ChatGPT to answer a simple question where the author is named MariaDB, and then say, why is gravity so different on the sun, right? So very quickly, we'll be able to use something like ChatGPT or similar types of models like Bard and some of the others that MindsDB supports. Currently, things like Llama, Cohere, GPT4, Bard, and then that is connected to a wide variety of data sources, and applications, like you can see here. So we'll cover off more about that in just a moment. Okay, right, and then remember that things are rate limited with ChatGPT, so sometimes these can be a little slow. That's not MindsDB or MariaDB SkySQL being slow. That's the rate limiting from OpenAI kicking in. So great. So we got this answer from ChatGPT. Wonderful. This is why gravity is so different on the sun. Well, let's make this a little more interesting, shall we? Right? We're going to create a new model, give it a response variable an object that we can query effectively, and then say, again, we want to use the OpenAI engine, a couple of other arguments here on tokens and temp, and then what model name. And then here's where it gets a little more interesting. We're going to give it a different prompt template. So it says, hey, you're a Twitter bot. Your name's Snoopstein, and you're helping people. You're smart. You're funny. You're a combination of Albert Einstein and Snoop Dogg. So explain things like Snoop Dogg would, but don't even say you're part Einstein, but then reference it a lot and drop a few OG references, and then sign off your response with Snoopstein by MindsDB on MariaDB, SkySQL. Cool. So that should be fun, right? That'll give us a little something more to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. Now this already exists. You'll see Snoopstein model v4 here. So I'm just going to get oops, this already exists, but that's literally the command I ran to make it real. So anyway, but that means now we can use it right away. So I'm going to do that. Now I'm going to say, hey, give me a response. That's that same response object, right? That I put up here, and then from the Snoopstein model, and then where the author name is me, and say, hey, Snoopstein, why is gravity so different on the sun? And then just introducing our Twitter bot, Snoopstein, who already has 308 followers. Wow, that's great. Good job. That's on loan to us at MariaDB from MindsDB folks, which are great. Half Snoop Dogg and half Albert Einstein, right? It's awesome. Okay, so let's come back to the console here and let's run this. And I could just do Shift Enter, but I'm clicking it. Okay, so again, we got the rate limiting kicking in from OpenAI, so it's a little slow, but just bear with, and we'll get an answer here in a second. Great. So, hey, Peter Humphrey, gravity be hella fly, and the sun no lie, mass be vast, pull be strong, ain't nothing wrong. For some science fun, check out OG Isaac Newton's law number 1. Right, there we go. Snoop Dogg, and my bad rapping attempt is now in the history books. And we've gotten a response really quickly. So we have generated a model, and now tested it and run it using OpenAI and in a couple minutes and a couple lines of code. And so, maybe we could do something more interesting with this. One of the apps that MindsDB supports is Twitter. And that can, tend to generate a lot of data, and that's where, something like SkySQL and relational databases come in. But we'll get there in a second. So if you want to connect MindsDB to Twitter, it's actually pretty straightforward. You can do it like this, and you'll get a bearer token kind of provided, a demo bearer token provided as kind of a convenience. But this demo, we kind of want to unlock the full sort of rewrite capability that we need. So we'll want to supply, we needed to supply, I should say, our own, API keys, bearer tokens, access tokens, and all that good stuff. So I've done that already and executed it. So this is just kind of the boilerplate blank text that you get, when you say add, Twitter data source here in the wizard. It just kind of generates this code for you, and then you fill it in. But I'm not going to bother showing you a demo of how to get your own, Twitter developer credentials going. I think, if you haven't already done that, it's not hard to figure out, and Twitter has good documentation on that front. So this I've already created with my API keys, and just for privacy, that's why they're not here. And now let's start to do something with Twitter. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll say, hey, I have this database called my Twitter v2, right? And that shows up here on the left-hand side, right? There's my tweets table. I'm going to say, so select star from my Twitter v2 database .tweets, and then give me tweets that are that mention Snoopstein or hashtag Snoopstein, and they're not retweets, and they're not from the Snoopstein account themselves, from somebody else. And then just in case that's a ton of content or something, let's put a date range on it and only give me stuff that's kind of recent. Okay, so let's execute that. Great. And then you see here we got a bunch of data back. So, and what's cool about this is using the Twitter API. So we're going to get all kinds of yummy metadata here. The author ID, the author name, conversation ID, what tweet it was in reply to, yada yada yada. So this is the real the Twitter API, right? We're getting a bunch of yummy data back from Twitter's API right here. And so, okay. Maybe we just want to see the tweets from Snoopstein, right? Not the ones, not the mentions or the non-retweets. And great, you just highlight it in the MindsDB console, click run, and boom, here's a couple of the tweets from Snoopstein. Now, that's interesting. We can kind of scrape and read content that's coming from Twitter. But what about writing something to Twitter? Let's post something. Let's print something to Twitter and say, hey, where can an OG learn more about a MariaDB open source, right? So I've got a tweet here. Let's see. I think I might even have it up already. Yeah, this is the one. It is the very same. Yeah, and so I just kind of have a demo tweet here, and then you'll see here some previous demo runs that Snoopstein has responded to, and so great. Let's have Snoopstein respond to it right away. I take that tweet ID and I'm feeding it into my Twitter tweets table, along with the what tweet is what's that's the ID is what it's in reply to, and then what I want to say. Cool. So I basically could take this and just run it. And then boom, query successfully completed. Let's see. I'm going to hit refresh here. There it is. 5 seconds ago. Where can an OG learn more about MariaDB open source, right? Cool. So now we can print stuff to Twitter. We can scan Twitter and read things from Twitter, and we can now write to Twitter or print to Twitter. So this is cool, but we don't. If we're writing a chatbot, we don't want to be, the developer don't want to be doing this manually. Sorry for the scrolling around. Sorry, just give me a second. I kind of lost my place here for a moment. Okay, there we go. So let's kind of true up with what we're intending to build here, and take a look at this diagram, right? So we're going to be building a couple. We're going to build a MindsDB database called my Twitter v2. That's going to store tweets of interest. And then the chatbot DB will be on SkySQL, MariaDB SkySQL, and that's going to hold tweets that are from others about Snoopstein, the mentions, the non-retweets, and then the output table is really going to be the tweets that Snoopstein has sent himself or themselves, I guess, since it's a bot. Himself, themselves, I don't know. And then we'll create some views in MindsDB to queue up stuff that we want to reply to and things that we want to send for the system to process. And then we'll automate those with jobs, and we'll come back to what that means in just a moment. Okay, So let's go back to our console. Now, before we get started doing this, we have a little bit of infrastructure set up to do, not a lot. We need to set up that SkySQL database that we saw here. This, sorry, just a second. This chatbot DB here, that we need to set up an input and an output table. So that is very easy though. So I have one already created just so we don't have to sit here and watch, the 3 to 5 minutes it takes to spin up. But all I did to do this, very simple, launch a cloud database. I pick enterprise server, column store, then I pick my provider and region, and then I would pick my instance size. In this case, sorry, that scrolled by a little quickly. 4 by 16, a 4 vCPU, 16 gigabyte machine. That's great. I don't need a ton of horsepower just to run this demo, right? And so then you give it the service name, which I think I gave it as AnalyticsDB, and that's it. And then you just click launch service down here, and you would get what I have here in the dashboard, this AnalyticsDB, Sky 4 by 16. Great. The one other thing you do need to do is allow the IP addresses for MindsDB Cloud, and you can get those really easily out of the MindsDB console. When you create, let's see, hold on, let me just delete this for a second. I'm going to open a blank query window here and say new data source. I'm going to choose SkySQL, and it'll generate this connectivity string for me. And I just basically fill this in with the values from the Cloud Console. But when you click New Data Source, I went by it a little quickly. Let me do it again. Okay, wait a second. Maybe it's not that one. Okay, this one we need to enhance. So these IPs are the ones you want to allow list on the SkySQL side. So you'll see I just created this rule here in the settings for secure access. So I just added these MindsDB clouds. The nice thing about SkySQL is that as you travel around, the console will sort of prompt you. I was doing a demo of this at the NASDAQ Center in San Francisco. The moment I walked in and connected to the network, SkySQL just says, "Hey, do you want me to allow this IP?" So it's really nice in the sense that it travels with you fairly automatically and helps you set the security stuff up. Now, what that also means is I have access to a workspace inside my column store, and I can just open up a web-based query editor, and I use the query you see here on the screen to create my chatbot input and my chatbot output tables. And all pretty standard SQL here, nothing fancy. Just creating a bunch of fields, and basically the input is exactly the same as the output. They're all the same fields. And if you look at here semantically, what are we doing? It's mostly about storing this Twitter metadata, right? Like, what user ID was it? Who's replying to what? What's the author name? All that good stuff. So I just selected this and hit, run. And that's what created these tables here. And again, coming back to the diagram, that's what has created, this teal section of the diagram here, where I'm storing the, tweets that mention Snoopstein, but aren't retweets, and tweets from Snoopstein himself or themselves. Okay, so great. So now we know how to configure access. Let me get rid of this query window. Yep, don't need that one. And I think I did this like 2 or 3 times, so I'm just going to get rid of this. Yeah. Okay, great. All right, so we did all this. We have a running database on the SkySQL side, right? And we created our tables in column store. So that's all that this was doing. I just have the SQL here to show you. That's exactly what we just did a second ago, and I just executed it on the SkySQL side. Then we want to connect MindsDB to SkySQL, and running this command is basically how we got the this MariaDB entry over here, and you see there's my chatbot input, and there is my chatbot output, and those are the tweets I want to tee up for processing, and those are all already built out, and to fill in these values, it's very simple. When you go to your SkySQL service, you just click connect. And you'll see all the service details you need here. So you're literally just copying, pasting, usernames, ports, domain names, et cetera, and pasting that in here. I turned SSL off just because I was trying to get in a hurry and try to get this set up quickly, but obviously you wouldn't want to do that for production. Okay. So now, what we want to do is let's kind of flesh out these 3 job components. What's going to automate this process? You know, you don't want to be sitting here running these queries manually. You want this to be, you know, kind of an automated process, right? So that's what these jobs are for. You know, that's the job construct in MindsDB is gonna do that automation while you're sleeping, and you know, doing something else, right? 1 second. Let me go back to that. There we go. Okay, so let's do that. What we're going to do is let's define our job components. We want to say, well, what are the tweets that we care about? We know that we want to get the ones that aren't retweets and aren't from Snoopstein and are mentions, right? And then we're going to insert that into the SkySQL chatbot input. And I've already kind of done that on previous demo runs, which is why there's data in here when I click run and do a select star from SkySQL chatbot input. Just clicking on the view here on the left-hand side does the same thing. And now let's say, okay, what are our output tweets? What are the tweets that Snoopstein himself or themselves has done? And so let's see. So we're just saying, hey, find everything later than this creation date from Snoopstein and then insert it into the SkySQL chatbot output. Great. Run that. We got a bunch of tweets that Snoopstein has done. Okay, so now let's create the replies and we're going to create some views. These views are again in MindsDB. We're creating this toReply2 and toSend view. That correlates to this view up here. Here's our toReply2 and toTweet. Great. So what's going to define that? We're going to say, hey, get all the chatbot input, get all the tweets from there, and you know, find the tweets to reply to where we're filtering out our conversation IDs correctly. And then let's create a view for that so that we can easily reference it in code, and I can just say select star from reply to, right? Which is very easy to code against. Now there's nothing in there right now because there's no matching criteria that needs to be processed at the moment. The queue has been drained, so to speak, by this running job. So, and then we'll say, you know, hey, let's join. Here's where the magic happens. Let's join the model. We're going to join that reply to view and select all the data from that, and then join it to the model, and just say we want to limit it to 1 prediction. So, you know, this is just quick and easy for the demo. Right, and then from there, we're going to want to say we're going to want to create the view to tweet stuff that needs to be written out to the internet from Snoopstein's handle. And so same thing, we're gonna select start from reply to, join it, and say limit 1. And again, if I run this right now, we get nothing because there's just no matching criteria. So last, what we wanna do is do everything, kind of assemble this together into a job, right? So the first part of the job, right, we've seen this before. Now this is familiar. So find me all the stuff that's mentions and not retweets, right, and not from Snoopstein after this creation date. Then we're going to say we want this to go into the, we want to select all the tweets from Snoopstein after this, after a certain creation date, and then insert stuff that was generated back into the master tweet list, and then do that every minute, right? And so if I just do a select star from running jobs, this is sort of a little bit of querying the runtime. It's saying, hey, what are the list of cron jobs, right? This is scheduled every minute, and it runs the SQL basically that we just authored. And so if we want to do demonstrate that, all we need to do is I can come to my Twitter handle here. And I'll just say, hey, Snoopstein, tell me about why SQL with MariaDB and MariaDB SkySQL and MindsDB is mind-blowing. Hardy har. Okay, so I'm going to tweet that. Now remember, I defined this job to be every 60 seconds. I really hope I did get the handle right, Snoopstein. Yeah, I did get that right. Okay, so we're just going to pause the recording for a few seconds to give it time for that job to run and respond. Awesome. So there we go, and we got a response from Snoopstein just about a minute later. and they do a great job. Mine to be blown like a G6 in the sky. Nice, that's kind of good. All right, so then, so we've got, I think it's kind of interesting to note that, it's not just Twitter automation. Let's say if MindsDB, let's say, supported Slack or something like that, right? You could easily see, a GitOps process where a CI build, drops off a notification somewhere, and you're automating notifications and things like that, or scanning for certain patterns in CI, and notifying real people via Slack about things that are going on. So there's a ton of different ways to use this stuff. It's not just all sort of how to generate content for social media, of course. So the sweet thing about this is it's integrated right into SkySQL. So if you just click here on integrations, MindsDB is right there. There's a free trial obviously for MindsDB. There's obviously a free trial for MariaDB, and then there's a nice tutorial that we have built in here that has a home rental data set. And has a kind of a structured walkthrough and sort of how to use these two things together. So that's all built right in for you. And if it's very easy to use in that sense. And so more content coming as well. So in the meantime, I think that's really what I kind of wanted to show you. Please have a try. Sign up at MariaDB for free. There's a generous free tier, that allows you without a credit card to just get started and play around with things like this. MindsDB has a similarly capable free tier, so certainly plenty of room to explore. We really look forward to hearing what you build. Please find us on Twitter or Slack and tell us about what it is that you're building so we can give you a hand. Looking forward to it, and thanks for your time. Thanks for your attention. Be well.